how will augmented reality, virtual reality be a part of our lives?
I think Pokemon Go, the game that popularized augmented reality in many people's eyes, that became the fastest game in history to hit $1 billion in revenue. They did it in 7 months. So it really took off. And we thought, why does that have to be about Pokemon? Why can't you use that same mechanism to create content in real world locations and be able to monetize in those real world locations? How can we apply that to your business, your travel, a not-for-profit you support, or your favorite sports team, right? So there's so many use cases of that mechanism and those technologies. So we divided Earth into 64 billion blocks.
Hey, Sohejl here. Thanks for tuning in. Real quick before we begin, if you enjoyed this episode, if you learned something, please consider to follow or subscribe or share this episode. That helps us out a lot. It helps us to reach more people and to spread quality education across the space about crypto and Web3. Also, if you're part of a crypto project or represent one and you would like to come on the show or do sponsoring, please get in touch with us. And lastly, everything we talk about today is for educational purposes and no financial advice. Enjoy the show.
Hrish, nice to have you on the Teach Me DeFi podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So let's talk about, let me tee this off. We had things like augmented reality, virtual reality. You had this big push, this big narrative at one point, right? Around the Metaverse with I think the culmination of it was Facebook changing its name to Meta. And then I feel like it sort of died down. But recently, also with the advent of AI, I guess you see this fresh wind for reimagining hardware as well. So you got Apple with those Vision Pro glasses. You have Meta with those Ray-Ban AI-powered glasses. Although I think I didn't see a mention of augmented reality and VR on the product page. But where is that journey going? How will augmented reality, virtual reality be a part of our lives, you think?
Yeah, I think you bring up some good points. 4 years ago in 2021, when Facebook changed their name to Meta, there was a huge increase in interest around the Metaverse and these concepts of virtual worlds. And you're right; they're having a resurgence now with the Meta glasses and Apple Vision Pro. And, I think the ability to use AI to understand the context of the world around us. And, I'd like to tell you, we've been focused on exactly that since the very beginning, which is the real world. We can go more into what we're building at Superworld, but the idea of what's happening now is exactly what we have been building, which is a way for you to interact with the world around you and to be able to effectively tokenize all human interactivity in reality. So what I mean by that is locations, interactions around you, and being able to benefit from literally the world around you. We're unlocking monetization in the real world.
Right. Well, what's the enticing part about, because I suppose one of the things is when you think about virtual reality and those sort of things, to escape reality, right? To have a different sort of experience. Now, what's the, let's say, bull case around sort of connecting the two, right? You have the real world and you do some sort of a representation of it as well. And you mix sort of physical experience with digital experience. Because it feels to me that's two different approaches. How do you work in that industry? How do you think about it?
Yeah. So, again, we've been, as I mentioned, really focused on this exact intersection the whole time. But I do agree that, I think, I would say 5-10 years ago, that was thought of as a distinction. Whether you're in virtual reality, you're putting on a headset and you're in your own space and doing things in environments that are totally artificial, virtual, totally VR. And then there's the whole other side of that spectrum, which is augmented reality, where you're in a surrounding and able to interact digitally with digital information in a real world surrounding. And we've really seen that as a spectrum the whole time, and really place that spectrum in real world locations. So with what we're working on in our vision here, we don't think that there should be a barrier to going into virtual reality if you're in augmented reality, or to be able to be in a physical place and interact, maybe just with audio, right? So AR doesn't have to just be a visual thing. It could be an audio thing. It could be just data. It could be interactivity of some sort. I think Pokemon Go, the game that popularized augmented reality in many people's eyes, really showed off the potential of that. And that was the inspiration for what we're building at Superworld, is what they did. But that, became the fastest game in history to hit $1 billion in revenue. They did it in 7 months. So it really took off, but it really showed off the potential of going to real places and digitally interacting. And, in our case, we're saying, hey, that digital interaction has a Web3 component to it. It has an AI component to it. And it doesn't have to just be visual. It could be data or audio or any type of content in those places.
What happened to Pokemon Go? Is that still going? I remember when it was very hyped, and you actually could see people outside standing around, and I don't know, you kind of knew they were playing that.
Yeah. It just got sold a few months ago to a company called Scopely. I think around $4 billion sale in that range. Niantic, who was the creator of that game, they're focusing on the spatial technology aspect of their business. And so they sold off their gaming business to Scopely, which is a very big game company. But it continued to do really well. They have other titles called Monopoly Go, which I think generates about $5 billion a year. So a lot of people don't know it, but it continues to be a massive success. And I think what we thought was, we saw that, and we saw that as a game clearly, right? And we thought, why does that have to be about Pokemon? Why can't you use that same, mechanism to create content in real world locations, enable anyone to discover that content from anywhere and be able to monetize in those real world locations? How can we apply that to your business? How can we apply it to your travel, your favorite places to go? How can we apply that to maybe a not-for-profit you support, or your favorite sports team, right? So there's so many use cases of that mechanism and those technologies. And that's kind of where we took it, and I think where this space is going.
Right. What's the best way to consume, I guess, these AR experiences? Is it still, because I haven't been on top of it, is it still through your phone? I think Pokemon Go, you would point your camera at stuff, right? And then you'd see the Pokemon, I guess, and you could capture it. Is it still a phone-based experience, or is it with those any kinds of glasses? What's the current platform for that?
So for Superworld, we're cross-platform. So we have a mobile application that you can view content in AR on mobile, but we're also on the web. You can view this on desktop web or mobile web, and basically, the idea there is, not all the content has to be in AR, as I mentioned, right? So the AR content, definitely the mobile application is the best place to view that, or the mobile web, which is called WebXR, right? But being what we're building isn't just the AR component of it. We've kind of brought all those technologies together and can be viewed on your desktop too, like a Google map, right? So think of Superworld as a way of interacting and benefiting from Google Maps, right? And maps that you create and other people create. As we interact with those, you benefit from those interactions. And so a Google map is pretty accessible anywhere. You don't need a headset or a phone to like kind of look through it in AR. It's very accessible. And so that's kind of how we're building that out.
Is that so? Is Pokemon Go what inspired Superworld, or?
Yeah. Me and my co-founder, we saw Pokemon Go, and we were just very enthralled about the fact that people were going to these locations in the physical world looking for digital content, and that really made us think about all of the different types of use cases for that kind of content. Could it be instead about being a game, which again, to be honest, I'm not a big gamer, but I could see so many other use cases that I would be interested in. Maybe it's about, I come to your city in Germany and I'm interested in finding out what your favorite restaurants are. And maybe I can go around to those places and interact with those places digitally before I arrive. Or even when I get to those exact locations physically with that content, kind of like Pokemon, but think of it as a piece of content that I walk into at your restaurant that you recommended, right? And the way I'd classify that is phygital content. So content that has a digital and a physical interactivity. So I could see it digitally or interact with it, even when I'm not in that location. Or when I do go to the specific location that the content is placed in, I could physically interact with it, maybe get a coupon or, physically check in. If you remember Foursquare back in the day, which was pretty popular. So I think that's kind of the idea we're going with. And so the technology and the mechanisms from gaming, Pokemon Go, can you bring that into your real life? Can you, incentivize user behavior, or, your community to do certain things and go certain places and things like that? So that was really, really compelling for us.
Okay. So is it a bit thinking about like hyper localized experiences? I'm just wondering if that ever, I think there were a lot of cases also in the 2000s where you wanted to use that. You mentioned Foursquare, but I feel like it never, I don't know, it never became like a part of your everyday life, even though I always found the case really compelling that you have, perhaps you are somewhere and you can like log into the place, and then you see the other places the other people that might be there, or you have some added online experience for it. How do you see that? Do you already have some indication of some use cases that you have implemented and like people enjoy specific hyper localized experiences?
Yeah. And I felt the same exact way when, that application allowed you to check in. I was like, there's something to this. And, Foursquare is more kind of a data company now doing local data. And we're again, integrated with their data as well. So we have a lot of integrations at Superworld. We're built on Google Maps. We're integrated with, applications across the immersive tech space, from Niantic's Eighth Wall, from ARKit and Apple AR Core on Android. So a lot of things on the immersive side. The Web3 side, we're integrated with Ethereum and Polygon. We're launching a token on Base very soon, and we're also built on Llama on AI. But as it relates to kind of this check-in feature that you were kind of referring to, when you look at all three of those pieces of content, and I should say not just content, but those technologies, immersive tech, Web3, and AI, I think then you can bring the full potential of that check-in. Right. If you're just checking in and it's a centralized check-in and maybe your friends know about it, maybe other people know that you've checked in, there's a less of a compelling reason to check in. If you can check in and that has some, decentralized type mechanism that allows you to become a stakeholder in a location. You could think of in Foursquare, people remember becoming the mayor of a place because they checked in the most, maybe, right? But what if you could own that place? What if you could become a virtual real estate owner like we do at Superworld? So we divided Earth into 64 billion blocks. So each block is a city block in real world locations. Each block is about $25 to buy. It's about 100 polygon, so very accessible to anyone. But when you buy it, you become an owner and you earn at that location across every filter of the world. So across advertising, e-commerce, digital commerce, data, gaming, across everyone's map. So I have a map, you have a map, everyone has a map, right? But if you own a location, you can earn from everyone's map at that location. And so location becomes very important, right? And so we're building a category that we call RWL. You've heard of RWA. This is real world locations, right? And real world locations brings together Web3, AI, immersive tech, real world assets, and DePIN, right? And that's where the act of checking into a location or digitally even interacting, digitally checking in, let's say, right? So I haven't physically gone there, but I'm digitally telling people I'm looking at this place. Just like you would look at a YouTube video and, get a view at that location. What if you're looking at the map at a location? That means something, right? And Facebook, I should say, Google Maps keeps all the search revenue, the vertical search when you send your Google map to someone and they interact on your map. But what if you're actually telling people to go to certain places by sending them a link to a map, right? What we want you to do is benefit from that interactivity and that attention you're bringing to a certain area. And that's what RWL is a lot about.
Interesting. I mean, like, I was just thinking about this cinema we have here, and when you go there, it's just again like a hyper localized, but more like gaming. Like on the screen, you have a game, and then you can get that app or whatever on your phone, and then you can play against other people on the screen while you're waiting for the movie to start. And I always found that funny. It's kind of this local little community for 5 minutes of playing something. So I think there's all these, like you said, things that can happen in a hyper localized way, which is immersive and fun. Um, and I'd be curious to see that kind of go off, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're building, and that's a great example of digital and physical interaction, right? You're all playing a digital game, but you're all in a physical location, and you came in to watch that movie, and bought probably a physical ticket at the door. You might have paid with credit card online before you got there, or you might have got there and paid digitally as well. So there's a lot of different physical, digital kind of interactions there that brought all those people together. And what if it wasn't a movie theater, but it was a public park, and you were also able to get other people that are remotely not there, but they're able to interact as well in this game digitally at home.
Because I think if you do it in a smart way, it enhances the experience. Because, like, in that case, you're waiting for the movies to start. Most of the time, it's kind of, you're sitting around kind of waiting, want it to start. But that way, it brings some fun for the waiting part, right? So, yeah, but you also mentioned ownership. But you said you could buy a slot, so to say. But, like, what if there's there's a Louis Vuitton store or something. So can I just buy that? But or can they claim that spot? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So, we divided Earth into 64 billion blocks. So 0.01, 0.01 longitude, latitude covering Earth. Each one is about 100-meter by 100-meter block. So like a city block covering Earth. As I mentioned, each one's about $25 to buy, so very accessible to anyone. But if you buy that location, you own it, right? And to be clear, you're buying a zone, a territory on Earth, right? You're not owning the physical Louis Vuitton store, but you're buying the area where that store is in Superworld. So you could think of Superworld as like a virtual filter covering Earth, and you're buying that zone.
But how can they monetize? Shouldn't those businesses be able to monetize their virtual?
So they're not only monetizing their virtual, they're monetizing their physical. Remember, this is what our technology enables them to bring people into this store, right? It's not a virtual store, it's their real store. Okay, but back to your movie theater example. That's a real movie theater. It's not a virtual version of a movie theater. It's people coming into a real movie theater, digitally interacting with each other, right? And so, the premise here, just to give you the framework of how Superworld is built. So you have a world. I have a world. Louis Vuitton in this example has a world. A world is a map. Think of it as a Google map. So in Louis Vuitton's case, they can create a map with all of their stores on the map. And their stores are already on the Google map, right? So if I said to you, hey, I'm coming to your city, like where is the, best Louis Vuitton store that I should go to, right? And I probably wouldn't be asking you that. I'd probably ask you about the movie theater instead. But,
I just said that because I came from Singapore, and you have all these designer stores and stuff. So
yeah. No, I know. I mean, no, it's a huge luxury is huge, right? It's a huge industry. I was just joking. Probably not be the first thing I'm looking for, but at luxury is huge. It could be a car dealership, could be a hotel, could be a restaurant, literally anything, right? And if I asked you that, there's a good chance you'd probably send me some links. Maybe, if I asked you what to do in your city, right, in general, you'd send me some Google Map links, website links. Maybe you'd send me some text. Maybe you'd send me some Instagram links about places to go, right? The problem with that is all of those places that you recommend, the hotels, the restaurant, the stores, they have no idea that you're recommending them. They're not giving you any points or recommendations. You're not getting anything for those recommendations. Additionally, I don't benefit from clicking on any of your links, your Instagram link, your Google Map links, any of those. And you don't actually even know what I end up doing. I might go to a restaurant you recommend like 5 times while I'm in town. I might book a hotel for $1,000 that you recommended to me, right? You don't get any points for monetization. And then I don't actually benefit from clicking on your links either. I might as well go to booking.com or Expedia or OpenTable or somewhere else and book either a table or a restaurant or a hotel or something like that, right? And the solution that we're building, and I'm just giving you the travel example, is instead you say, Hrish, just check out my world. You send me a link, I click on it, I zoom in on a Google map of your city, and I'm able to interact with content and places that you recommend or love. And maybe it's a Louis Vuitton store, and I go in there and because you've added it, you've like starred it to your map. And a lot of people do that on Google Maps. They star a location on their Google Maps. Or in your case, maybe you added some content to a location, right? You're like, oh, you got to check out this game in the movie theater. It's super cool. Like the game company that built that game maybe puts that on the map there, right? Hey, you can play this game at the movie theater, right? And so anyone can create a map, right? Louis Vuitton can create a map. And it doesn't matter if you own virtual real estate or not. You can create content anywhere in the world. You can monetize anything in the world. So as I gave you that example of me coming to your city, let's say you gave me, a hotel or a restaurant you like. I go and I digitally interact with it. I check out the rooms maybe digitally before I arrive. I, check out a menu. Maybe I make a table reservation or book a room digitally, right, on the map. Or I physically go to those places and check in. And as I do those interactions digitally or physically, you're benefiting from my interactions. And if you love a place, you're like, hey, everyone goes to this location. Maybe it's the Louis Vuitton store, or maybe it's, that movie theater you recommended. You're like, everyone goes there. It's the hot spot in the city. You buy that area, okay, as virtual real estate in Superworld. And if you buy that and you own it, you monetize from everyone's map at that location. So you become a stakeholder in that location and you benefit from whatever activity is happening on anyone's map. So if, there's lots of other people recommending that movie theater or the Louis Vuitton store, you own the location, so you benefit from everyone's map of the world at that location.
And when you say benefit, what do you get from who? Is it protocol rewards, or is it something from those physical places that get engagement through your platform and they share some of that revenue?
Yes. So basically, what we're enabling users to do is to add the ability for you to book from real world businesses, whether it's a table reservation, whether it's a hotel room, whether it's interacting, coming in for buying a coffee. What we're doing is making the map interactive. So businesses can add ways to interact with their business onto the map. And then when I learn about that business, maybe it's your favorite coffee shop, right? I go in and maybe click on something digitally for a coupon. Maybe I go in physically and buy that coffee that's on the special or whatever that they're offering there as the activation. Think of it as me walking in to click on the Pokemon, except I learned about that from you. And it's not a Pokemon, it's a restaurant.
Hmm. So the business makes, let's say the business makes revenue, but like so the owner of the of the plot of land, where does the reward come from again? Sorry, maybe I missed that.
So we get a commission from revenue that is generated at the business. Superworld gets the revenue commission. And then we share that commission with someone who has a world, maybe a recommender like you, who's recommended that hotel, right? And so you cause the interactivity to happen. So you'll get a share of that revenue, and then wherever the location is that this interaction happened, if there's a virtual real estate owner of that location, they'll also get a benefit from the fact that they're a stakeholder in this location, and they benefit from every interaction at that location. And so what's really interesting is you might have bought a location because it's the Louis Vuitton store, right? But someone else actually bought that location because they're a fan of history. And in that location, this historical event occurred there 300 years ago. And in someone else's world, there is digital content there educating people about that history. And people go to that location to interact with some historical content there, right? And so what I mean to explain to you is that every filter, every map of the world could be about vastly different things, right? And if you own a location, you benefit from every one of those filters of the world or every one of those maps.
Okay, so there's also a real world revenue component of this. So there's actually driving engagement for businesses, for example, driving customers. They pay a commission to you for that. You share it with your users or the recommenders and the virtual landowners, for example.
That's right, right. And it's also not just physical locations in the sense that, it's only a coffee shop or a hotel or something physical there that can create monetization, right? If you think of creators, right, the creator industry is really growing rapidly. We're all becoming creators, right? And so Superworld enables creators to create digital or physical interactivity in locations. So if I come to your town and I want to find a photographer, right? Well, those photographers can place content on the map that I can then discover and, book a photography session, or I could book yeah.
So, for example, let's say you have a tourism info spot in a city. You go in there as a tourist, and then some guys who do like sort of tours have set up like a virtual checkpoint or something, which you see. at that position, and you can see their offer. Maybe they have like a nicely cut video or something, and you can then book that experience immediately. Does that make sense? For example, is that a use case?
Yeah. And I think you described that as a digital experience of some sort, right? And so I'm able to buy that digital experience on a map, right? So I'm zooming in on the map and I'm buying it on the map. If it's a physical tour, like it's like a walking tour.
Physical tour. That's what I meant. That's why they would be tagged at the info spot, because there's where the people want to do the tours, or you know what I mean. So
Exactly. So it could be a physical tour, right? I'm just giving you an example. It could be either or, right? It could be like, hey, I haven't, I haven't moved to your city yet, but I'd love a digital tour. Can I buy one of those? Like, how does that work? Do I go on YouTube and do a search for your city? I'm sure I'll see content there, but I can come to Superworld and see something and buy something premium. Maybe a guy does a walking tour, and even as a live stream. I can say, hey, do a live stream, walk around and show me the best things to do. And I just want to watch, right? So now he's selling a digital live stream at the tourist place on the map. Or in your example, I'm coming to that location physically and I see that they offer a physical tour there, and I can click on the map and book it. But I've located the tour based on the fact that I know that there's a tourist agency there at that location, right?
how do you think about like distribution and customer acquisition, or like switching costs from existing platforms, right? So, for example, like, there is, I wonder, do you think Instagram or so will also tap more into the hyper localized experiences? Like, there is, for example, one thing I think where you have locations on pictures, and you click on location, and then you see like little bubbles where people have posted stories in specific locations, and you can take a look, and they're quite recent, I think, because they're stories, or they're from today, or there is some things like that, but they always seem to be a bit more niche in the offering of the platform. um is like, how do you think about the existing landscape and what you guys are doing? For example, is it more like, okay, you'll cooperate with one of these big platforms who have a big user base, and you'll improve that side, that physical digital experience that's localized, um, or yeah, or how do you think about this market?
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. Instagram is in the space. Google Maps is in the space, right? We're built on Google Maps. So in many ways, we're partnering with all of these companies. We're built on Llama, which is Meta, right? We're built on Niantic, Eighth Wall technology. That's the creator of Pokemon Go. We're on Android. We're on Apple phones. We're cross blockchains, right? Ethereum, Polygon. We're launching on Base. The best way to think of Superworld is we're cross platform. We're not competitive to any of them. We take the best of these technologies and we bring them together into a decentralized virtual world that you can own and become a stakeholder right? And the point there is, in terms of the switching costs, we don't want you to switch from Google Maps. We allow you to upload your Google Map to Superworld. And, your Google Map doesn't monetize for you, right? So you can keep using your Google Map, and I use Google Maps every day. But when I hear of a place that I love, or someone tells me, hey, you got to go to this restaurant, I always put it in my world in Superworld. Because now I know, hey, you know what? When people want to come to a city I've been to, they can discover that content. They can interact with it. I'm going to get some points. I'm going to earn some rewards, right? And I can share that knowledge, right? The things that you put on your Google Map, no one sees unless you share it.
When you say you can upload your Google Maps, what does that mean? So, like, if I have already starred a few places and stuff, there's a functionality to transfer that over, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you might have starred, thousands of places on your Google Map. So just come over to Superworld. You can click after you've signed up to upload your Google map, and all those starred locations will now appear on Superworld, and you'll be able to start monetizing from all those places that you're recommending. And then as it relates to Instagram, I think they do a really great job at what they do. And again, we're very close to Meta. We're built on Llama. The difference here is, there's the Web3 aspect of what we're doing really adds things to our offering that either Google or Facebook, Instagram aren't able to do. So you can't buy your favorite places in your city, on Instagram, and I don't think that's ever going to happen, right? You can't necessarily, earn from businesses in real world locations without setting up a collab, without having some kind of partnership with Instagram. In Superworld, because of the Web3 components of what we're doing, you can stake to businesses, right? You can use our future token to interact with other people's profiles in a way that also makes you a stakeholder to their map. You can, stake to locations that you love. And so, what we're doing is, again, we love everything that Instagram's doing and Google Maps and the other companies that are in this space in general. And we don't want to compete at all. What we want to do is look at their offerings and see what, this concept of RWL, real world locations, it really combines, Web3, AI, immersive tech, real world assets, and DeepIn can bring to that. And so in many cases, because of those companies being very centralized, they are, very big ships. They're not going to, navigate to where we're going. We're building a very unique product. And we build on all of those companies. So we're cross-platform. They're also not going to be cross-platform in that way. They can't. They're competing against each other.
Just real quick, what happens on the staking? You can stake on like a store or like a cinema or something, or like a map, and then I like to understand the flow of value if you earn something from that.
Sure. So the concept here is what we're building, and this is all in our white paper. So if you go to whitepaper.superworldapp.com, you can learn more about our token utility. But the concept is kind of like what you just told me naturally on the call. You're like, hey, there's this cool movie theater. They have this game inside. It's super cool. And my next question is like, where is that? I would love to go see that. I got to check it out, right? And you're probably, maybe if you were already kind of using Google Maps, maybe you would star that movie theater. Maybe you wouldn't, but maybe you would if you wanted to keep it in mind. But if you were in Superworld, you definitely star it because you're like, oh, okay, like I know this is a cool place and I benefit from, openly recommending it to people. So I'm definitely going to star it in my world in Superworld. And what we've done with staking is taken that a step further. Okay. So you might have a business that maybe you love, like this movie theater. Maybe it's a business that the owner, maybe you're partnered with it somehow. Maybe you're a local, so you go there all the time and you just love their products, etc. Right. So you can stake to that business. And if you stake to that business and you bring them on board onto Superworld, and now when they do connect their credit card and they want to bring more customers like you and others that have staked to them, because they realize, wait, this is a channel that we're actually getting customers that love us so much, they're like recommending us and they're like actually generating income from us. For us, and in this location, they're bringing attention to this location. This is an interesting platform, and so they sign up to start utilizing Superworld to bring in more business, similar to how they would sign up for Instagram if they realize that they're getting customers on their Instagram page. But unlike what's happening in centralized social media, where people are getting throttled when they're doing advertising organically, this is a decentralized platform. So we all are stakeholders in it. And as users, as customers like yourself of that business, you're able to directly, in a peer-to-peer way, bring that business on board and benefit directly, as now you are the person, you and maybe others have brought that business on board because you stake to them. So now you're able to earn part of their spend that they bring on board, kind of like a commission of bringing a customer onto a business.
Part of their spend, which is the commission they pay to you when they get more customers and stuff, right?
So, when they get this credit, right, they've earned a yield, they've earned the credit. Okay. So they click on to join Superworld, right, to utilize the credit. The credit can be used to do marketing activities in Superworld.
But that yield, is it coming from protocol rewards?
It is coming from Superworld at first as a way to jumpstart businesses and consumers to do this activity. But as soon as these businesses jump on board and connect their credit card and start spending, because they want to do more of that, right? They want to, oh wow, I got an X number of customers from this platform who are actively promoting us. Let's do more of this and get more of these people. Then that will bring in liquidity into that staking pool from the businesses that are now actually spending to further utilize the marketing services available in Superworld, similar to them signing up to do some Google ads or Instagram ads.
Okay. So they can do some sort of ads and stuff on the platform.
Ads, activations with influencers, with creators. Maybe they want to get featured in Superworld. Maybe they want to add a coupon. Maybe they want to, bring people into their store. I mean, if you think of how Pokemon Go makes money, it's a similar type of design where, businesses are paying for Pokemon to exist in and around their business. So all these people show up at the door.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's called a Pokestop. So, so you could think of it that way, but it's like, how do I get people to come and play that video game at the movie theater that you spoke about?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole new age. I mean, driving attention to the physical world from the virtual one and vice versa. What do you think about these like hyper realistic replicas of cities in a virtual environment? I think there's a few things around that. I think also XAI is doing something around worlds, like AI. I think being able to generate realistic, in terms of physics and so on, realistic virtual worlds. What would you think about that whole thing?
Yeah, and we're already live with some of that stuff already. So we're built on Google, and we have an integration with Google CCM, Google Earth CCM. So you can, in Superworld, for example, place a piece of content in augmented reality in a location, right? Let's say like at your favorite park, you can put a piece of artwork that maybe you created, right? So you put your artwork right in your favorite park, and in Superworld, I can click on that and visualize it in augmented reality, right? In that location, in that park, right? I could see it on the map. So if I'm not in that location, I could see it on the map, right? And visualize your artwork at home from anywhere. Or I could click on it and I could jump into the map. And now I'm in the map, standing there at the park, like you said, and I'm able to see your artwork.
And this works with based on Google Earth.
It's Google Earth CCM is the integration. So on our side, our goal, just to be clear, is we're integrating with the best platforms, the best integrations out there. Again, whether it's on the Web3 side, we're on Ethereum, Polygon, launching now on Base. Whether it's immersive tech, as I mentioned, we're integrated with Niantic, Eighth Wall. We're working with Apple and Google.
What's the Google has? Wasn't there something recently on social media? Is that the nano banana thing, which was kind of you generate a world, right? You say something like, I want to see like a polar bear running through Berlin and going to a club or something, and then it generates you this like kind of this world, this where you can walk around being that bear. And you can interact with it. So I think there was like painting something on the wall, and then you look away and it's still there on the wall. So very I don't know, advanced interaction on the spot, generating a virtual environment. Is that the nano banana thing? Are you working with that as well, or?
Nano Banana, VO, Sora. There's a number of generative content AI applications out there. And in our kind of viewpoint, again, we're open to all of them. I think what we're trying to focus on is how can we make it really easy for you, if you create content on any of those platforms, to upload that content into Superworld. Right. So we don't necessarily want to take sides in a certain, generative AI product. I told you we're built on Llama. Llama is open source, so that made a lot of sense for us to start on Llama. But we're also looking at, a variety of other AI platforms, including BitTensor on the Web3 side of it. We're also partnered with SingularityNet, ASI, Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. So our viewpoint is, again, like we're open to wherever the consumer wants to go, wherever the user wants to go to work with AI, and then bring it into Superworld.
Or let's say like a sushi restaurant or something takes a picture of their store and then puts it into one of those generative world generators, and then perhaps puts that on Superworld, right? So like users can interact with that. Okay.
Exactly. Add it to their map, right? So the basic way to think of Superworld, without any complexity here for everyone who's listening, is Superworld is a map. And it allows you to create your own map and personalize your own map with whatever you want, right? It could be recommendations. It could be artwork. It could be, just content. It could be all of those things, probably all of those things, right? And it allows people to navigate the world around them and, digitally and physically interact with this content, right? Think of it like YouTube, except for phygital content. Right. Or if you think of a creator platform, like there's a lot of creator platforms out there. We're like a creator platform on a map. Right. So if you're a creator, hey, and you're creating content, well, come over to Superworld and put that content on a map. So it's actually discoverable on a map. And you can become a stakeholder in these places where you're creating content as well.
But when you say you create your own map, like on your map, you'd still, like Google Maps, see the activities and the content that's put there by other people?
Yeah. So everyone has their own version of the map. So you have a map, I have a map. It's all on the same map, but there's an unlimited number of filters on the map.
Yeah, but okay, let me put it differently. Is it public? Is there a public state of the map which is shared among multiple people?
Yeah, exactly. There's a public map that has everyone's content on the map. Think of each person's map as a channel on YouTube. So you have a channel, I have a channel, right? But then if I go to YouTube, I'm looking at everyone's content and everyone's channels, right? Right. But if I want to learn more about I'm like, wow, this guy has some awesome videos and I want to learn more about your videos, I might go to your channel. Right. And so if I'm like, hey, you know what, this, he has amazing content in Germany. And it's like, I keep looking at it or keep interacting with it. It's just kind of, interesting stuff. I'm like, hey, let me go check out their world and see what I find in their world. And then I can follow their world or not follow their world and keep, looking for content. So that's kind of the way to think about a world, which is a map, versus just the content itself. And if you think of YouTube, it's videos. In Superworld, it's phygital content, which is a kind of a new content category. I'm sure you haven't, you haven't thought about content in that way, but phygital content is literally any type of content. So it could be photos or videos, it could be 3D content, but it's content that you've uploaded into Superworld that we enable it to have digital or physical interaction.
Gotcha. There's really a lot to this, a lot to wrap your head around. But like you might have noticed, the more questions I asked, it seems more intuitive than in the end. Perhaps content creation seems to be at the core of this. So again, that's another thing. How do you get a lot of people to create content on Superworld? You mentioned like creators. I assume just like with YouTube, you get have these huge creators which drive a lot of attention. Like, is that a part of the strategy as well, to get some like big creators to create some experiences on Superworld, or what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, again, there are some very dominant creator platforms. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, probably the top three creator platforms out there. And there's a lot of creators on Google, right? And those creators don't actually monetize from any of that activity they do. There's creators on Airbnb, if you think about it that way, right? All of the people on Airbnb, whether they're hosts or they're providing services or experiences, those are creators, right? And Airbnb is a map, right? So there's a lot of platforms out there, but there's no one really doing this phygital content in this way that we're doing it. And so, we think that that a lot of those creators, there's an opportunity for them, especially with those that are doing a mix of physical kind of content creation, services and experiences in Airbnb as an example, but might also want to do digital content creation, right? And right now they go to two different places, right? If you go digital stuff, you're going to be on Instagram, or you're going to be on a YouTube. Maybe you're on a Fiverr in some ways, right? If you're doing digital kind of services. And we want to bring all of those things together. So there's a lot of categories that, like, once you are in a location and you want to access some of these creators, like, it's more comfortable to get someone who's in your area. You know what I mean? Because they're just more local. Maybe the service itself lends itself to be more local. And so, I think we're building a niche here that's going to create a category where none of these other players are really currently active. And so that's kind of the focus of what we're doing, is phygital content creation and that creator marketplace.
Super interesting. I guess the lines are blurring more from brick and mortar and digital, and it's all starting to live in this phygital space. So
Yeah, that's what Superworld's about.
awesome. Well, we never talked about sort of that part of Web3, or that part of online experiences. Super interesting. Thank you, Hrish, for coming on the show, and we'll put all those links in the show notes as well for anyone to check it out. And
yeah, thanks for having me. I'd say one final thing. We have our token coming out, SPWR. We're on Republic right now. We have a couple of other launch pads. So if you, I think you'll hear this probably while we're still in the pre-sale. So check it out, SPWR. And we're going to market really soon. So I'd love to have you, if you heard this and found it compelling, come over to Superworld, create a world, start uploading content to real world locations.
Awesome. Thank you, Hrish.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.